Evening, folks. As you join, if you've been with us before, you know the drill is we wait a few minutes to give folks a chance to get on the call. So probably get started at a little about 7:04, 7:05. So we'll be right back with you. Hey, folks, as you're joining, we're going to take a few minutes to let everybody log on. But as you look at the slide that's up in front of you, go ahead and write down the BSA plan voting agent. If you have any questions about your vote, we're going to talk about this during the town hall. But if you put in the 866-907 BSA1, which is 2721, or BSA ballots at omniagent with no e.com, that goes directly to Omni. So if you're worried about your vote, you're not sure, you can always get another ballot, and it's always the last ballot that counts. So we'll be getting started here in a few minutes. Hey everybody, I've got about 8:03 Eastern Standard Time. We're going to get going in about a minute or two. Let everybody join. Want to remind you all that the slide up in front of you not only has an email, TCC questions at pszjlaw.com, but it also has the information on where you can get a ballot from Omni if you're having any questions about your vote. So that's new. We haven't put that up on the slide, and it is on the tccbsa.com website. And we're going to wait about another minute. I see that you guys have already started asking questions. We do have that live tonight. We had a little snafu last week. Sorry about that. I know we answered all the questions that came in via email. And we're going to get going here in just a few minutes. All right. Hey, Deb, I think that's kind of the pace has slowed down a little bit. I think we can go ahead and get going. Welcome once again to the TCC Thursday Night Town Hall. My name is John Humphrey. I'm the co-chairman of the Tort Claimants Committee. I'm joined by Doug Kennedy, co-chair.
Good evening, everybody.
And our legal team, Rich Pacholski, James Stang, Deb Grassgreen, with backup support by Steve Golden and Mahur. So thank you very much, guys, for answering questions tonight. I see that that's already off to the races. So welcome. We're probably not going to be here much longer than 30 minutes. There's not a lot to update, and we are definitely in the holiday season. We do have some things to update you on. I just want to take a moment here, sitting here on the 9th of December. We're coming up on almost 2 years, folks, and I know it's been a long, arduous process. and we're getting close to the end. So we know that it's frustrating. We know that, we thought that the voting would be over on the 14th of December. For those of you who have not heard or have not read any of the press releases, the BSA got that extended until the 28th. So voting is going to remain open through the holiday season. And we're glad that you've joined us tonight. Like I said, we're answering questions already. We want to let you know where we are in the bankruptcy process. We're trying to do these meetings on a fairly regular basis, but I will tell you that given the fact that we're in December and we're sort of heads down, focused on people getting out to vote, unless there's some material development, we're going to suspend our town halls until after the vote. If you recall, for the better part of almost a year and a half, we've been doing them monthly, and we decided that when we got into this phase that we would start meeting weekly. We think at this point, that's a little bit of overkill. So ask your questions. In general, we're happy to answer them to the extent that we can. Obviously, we want to be measured in some of our answers. I think some of our Q&A found its way into the court documents from anonymous questions. So we got the attorneys answering questions today. And look, we're not here to give you any individual legal advice. We're just here to inform you, let you get to know us, and let you get to know our professionals. So, as I said earlier, the new deadline is the 28th of December. That means that it has to be received by Omni by 4 o'clock. And if you're going to use snail mail, as they say, you better mail it tomorrow. So you can look to Omni for an electronic record. You can talk to your attorney. We will find out on January the 4th what the preliminary results are, and then we'll get the final results on January the 17th. And just so you know, that no matter how the vote comes out, we will be moving to a confirmation hearing. That has not been changed. It is on the 24th of January. You can always change your vote. If something material happens and you want to change it, if you go to BSA ballots at OmniAgent, agnt.com, they will send you a new ballot. If you have questions about how your attorney is recording it, you can always vote on your own. If you are getting bothered by an attorney or your attorney and you're sort of done hearing about it, or you want it to turn off during the holidays, which I think is a fabulous idea, send them something in writing and tell them to leave you alone. It's a really stressful time, and what we're trying to do as a committee is sort of unplug after this town hall. Ordinarily, we have meetings every Thursday night after town halls. So we're going to try and take a big, deep breath, because we know that when we move to confirmation, there's going to be a lot of things happening, legal and otherwise. So voting is the key right now. If you don't vote, you sort of get what you get. And if this is the last chance you have to vote, take a little bit of that control back for yourself, we really want to encourage you guys to do that. The red vote no ought to tell you that we're not a big fan of the plan in its current form. And that doesn't mean that if it's in some other form that we agree with, that we wouldn't support it. But if you recall, what we're looking for in the non-monetary area is more independent oversight of youth protection, a managed release of the IV files. On the monetary side, we're not looking for the sponsoring organizations to get a hall pass, as I call it, where they don't put anything up. We're looking for the local councils who we think have resources that they can contribute more. And we're looking for more from insurance companies. We think the settlement is woefully inadequate. Regardless of any announcements that get made, you can be assured that they're less than they should be. And then finally, we want an independent trustee. We don't want the trust run by attorneys. We want trust distribution procedures that are fair and adequate and get the money into the hands of survivors in the most expeditious way. And so when we get those things, we'll support it. But right now, we don't have any of them. So we are voting no. We encourage you to vote no. But we also will say that, we think you should vote your conscience. We think you should express your voice, not your attorney's voice, not what Doug and I tell you, but what you believe in your heart of hearts. This is your chance to vote. And so we encourage you to do that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Richard Pacholski to give us a little update on the mediation and some of the motions around the abuse and scouting organization. Rich?
Thanks so much, John. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to everyone today. My comments aren't going to be very long, but I do want people to get a sense as to what's going on. I think John did an excellent job explaining the extension of the voting, which is now has been added 2 weeks, I believe till December 28th. To be fair, and not everything in this case is consensual. That was a negotiated matter among all the parties. Everybody, whether they want a vote yes or vote no, wants this to be a fair and open process. John is correct. People have up to December 28th to vote or to change their vote, but it has to be received. You just can't put it in the mail on December 28th or it won't be counted, which is not something we want. We want it counted whether you vote yes or no. We just want the process to be fair. So that was a big thing that took place and was disclosed to the court this past Monday. A second issue that you might have heard about is relating to the mediation and one of the mediators. The judge on her own had gone through, which I have to say is extraordinary, since the confirmation hearing is until January 24th. But she apparently went through the 700 pages in what's known as a plan supplement, because when you do the plan, you then have to add specific documents. One of those documents provided that one of the mediators would become what is known as a special reviewer in the documents. Anyone who goes through those documents would see that. The judge on her own set a hearing and came to the conclusion that she felt that was a conflict. And at the moment she announced that, the mediator was no longer going to be involved in the mediation. She stated during the hearing that she considered terminating the mediation. She made the decision not to because there was still a mediator available that had been working through the process for months and months, and that in her view there had been progress in the mediations, and the mediation process would continue. So whatever you've heard, that is what happened. The judge decided. She decided when she reviewed the documents and decided to continue the mediation, though with one fewer mediator. And those mediations, as is disclosed to the court, are still going on. The third kind of legal issue I wanted to mention is the TCC is very focused that there not be voter confusion. The AIS has, as some of you know, 3 lawyers. Different lawyers are giving different recommendations, and the TCC felt a motion should be filed that the 3 lawyers should send a single letter that would state their respective positions, and that matter is going to be heard this coming Tuesday, December 14th, and the judge will make that decision. So that's what's going on with respect to the legal issues, and as I said, the mediation is going forward with the parties who are trying to resolve issues. Because the mediation is going forward, and even outside of the mediation, parties are speaking, there's a reasonable possibility that other settlements will come about, and the TCC will be vigilant in analyzing those settlements. At this point, the TCC is very firm in its determination that the survivors should vote no, and the reason for that is really threefold. First, there is a very strong belief that the compensation that has been proposed, and there's not from all the insurance companies, for instance, but the matters that have so far been disclosed as settled or is insufficient compensation. And we would hope, for instance, that Hartford and the local councils would provide additional compensation. We don't know if that will ever happen, but at this point, based on what has been provided, we think the compensation is insufficient. Second, which John had mentioned, is we feel very strongly that the trust governance has to be truly independent, that it should not be the TCC who controls that, it should not be the coalition who controls it, it should not be other lawyers, for instance, who control it. It should be a truly independent. That's the way that we think that the system should work. We do not believe at this point it is an independent trust governance. We hope that those changes will be made and that we can support the trust governance, but that's not the case at this point. The third issue, as John also mentioned, is youth protection. Frankly, we're not quite sure what the final youth protection will look like, but we are firmly focused on making sure the youth protection is satisfactory. So until those issues are satisfactory to the TCC, we will continue to recommend a no vote, and we will aggressively pursue that the confirmation of the plan not occur. But it is our hope, and we hope to be involved in the process, that we can fix those three general issues, and only time will tell. And so that's where we are at this point. And we are, I'm cautiously optimistic we can make progress, but frankly, we're a ways away from that occurring. So that's where we come out, and hopefully that answers some of your questions and clarifies some of what's been going on this week.
John, may I make a comment? Just as
Sure.
So you said before Rich started speaking, well, first of all, good evening, everybody. And if we do have this as the last meeting before the holidays, wish everyone a Merry Christmas and hopefully a very successful New Year. You said the committee might unplug. I want to assure everyone who's listening to this that while Doug and John and the other 7 guys may have that luxury, the lawyers are plugging in extra chargers to their cell phones and their computers. There is still an enormous amount of work that's going on. What we call fact discovery is still going on, even though it was supposed to have ended in early December. Expert reports have been exchanged amongst the parties. They're not filed for the public. They may become the subject of testimony at the January 24th confirmation hearing and the days thereafter. Expert reports, I don't know, there must be like 15 of them from the different parties. There will be rebuttal expert reports. There will be depositions of experts. There will be more documents are still being produced as we speak, even though everyone was supposed to be substantially completed, I think, just before Thanksgiving. And so I want to assure everyone on this call that we are still working very hard, and John and Doug and the other 7 guys will be ready at the drop of a hat to get on calls with us if decisions have to be made that can progress the interests of survivors.
Yeah, thanks for that reminder, Jim. And yeah, Deb.
Yeah, if I could just jump in there. Jim just mentioned the expert reports, and I'm seeing a lot of questions in the Q&A about the local counsel analysis being posted on the website. And we needed for those expert reports to go in. They went in on Sunday so that we could post those local counsel dashboards. So start looking in the next day or two. They're going to go up momentarily.
Yeah, Rich, I was going to ask you to comment on something since, it's likely we won't meet again until after the vote is finished. We've been so focused on the vote. Everybody thinks it's all about the vote. And Jim just sort of let everybody know that there's a ton of work going on. What happens in a confirmation hearing? What should people expect? The kind of arguments that are made? What happens? How long does it last?
So that's a very, very fair question, John. So the confirmation hearing is going to start on January 24th. We don't know yet whether that's going to be straight through day by day or whether there'll be breaks because the judge has an extraordinarily busy calendar, particularly in Delaware. I can't imagine that, and this is just me, I can't imagine that the trial will be less than 3 weeks. I've heard some say 2 to 3 weeks based on my experience. I could see that it goes well beyond 3 weeks. Now, does that mean 2 months? No. But does it mean 5 weeks? Yeah, it could easily take 5 weeks. But again, nobody knows. It hasn't been set yet. And John asked a great question. Everybody is laser focused on the vote. And the vote is critically important. And frankly, a no vote would be an extreme negative for confirming a plan. It could be the death of the plan, some believe, but there's a lot more than just the vote, whether it comes in yes or no. And for instance, you have to prove that the plan is feasible, that actually what's being proposed is going to occur. You have to prove that the debtor has to prove that all creditors, both survivors and other unsecured creditors, would receive at least as much as they would receive in a Chapter 7. That's a very factually intensive issue. You have to, the debtor has to prove that the settlements are within a range of reasonableness. So there are a whole assortment of issues, which is why you have innumerable expert reports on issues such as the feasibility, what's known as best interest, which is you're doing at least as well in a Chapter 11 as you would do in a Chapter 7. And in terms of the settlements that have been proposed, because people object to the settlements, you have to prove that the plan has been proposed in good faith. In that respect, for instance, you know, has the youth protection program, is that satisfactory? So there are lots and lots of issues, John, and that's why this is going to be a very complicated process. And one reason I think that the 2 to 3 week estimate may be low is because of the number of parties that are going to be participating. You're going to have the TCC, you're going to have the Unsecured Creditors Committee, you have the debtor, you have the coalition, you have innumerable insurance companies, and everybody's going to want to speak about and pursue their interests. So hopefully, John, that's helpful, but it is, and there are lots of other issues.
Yeah,
but
no, that's a good,
Yeah.
that's the backdrop on why you guys might not have a happy Hanukkah and a Merry Christmas.
No, John, Jim is right. We're preparing. We have teams of people that most of us are not going to have any time off. I mean, I thought that I might have some time, but since my involvement in the case, there's no chance. So everybody is very dedicated to get an appropriate result for all of the survivors.
John, one other thing.
Sure.
We've been asked, I don't know about the Q&A, but I've been asked, are these going to be live hearings or Zoom hearings or some hybrid? We don't know yet. I believe that some of the bankruptcy court judges in Delaware are allowing live hearings. This obviously is a matter of a very large audience with people from all over the country. We are going to have what we call a meet and confer with the debtor and the other parties about, and ultimately probably the clerk's office, over how this is going to get done. And we will urge the court, if she does have a live hearing, to try to do it in a manner that survivors can watch remotely. It requires a different camera angle than we see on Zoom, but much like people have seen some of the more infamous trials over the last 2 decades involving matters of great public interest, the USA Gymnastics sentencing hearings were viewed live on TV. And I don't know if this would be televised. It doesn't quite raise to that level possibly, but we want to be sure that survivors are given as much access as the court's facilities can provide so that they can see what's happening in their case.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, Deb?
Yeah, just a couple more things coming in from the questions. So I just want to clarify. Because the voting deadline has been extended, the preliminary voting report won't be put out until January 4th. That's when it will be public. Until then, all the information we have, we're under strict confidentiality. We're not allowed to share. I know that some of you who saw it reported or followed the court hearing, the judge actually asked the lawyer from the BSA how many votes have come in so far, and she gave a number from a couple of weeks ago, but we aren't allowed to share that. And so we're not, we're sorry, we're just not allowed. We're under a confidentiality agreement. So it will be January 4th. So folks are asking, well, are we going to hear about it? When is the town hall? We'll certainly have one right after that report. And a second question that I'm seeing a lot of is about the hearing and if the votes are no. If the votes are no, not enough, clearly not enough to carry, then, I would expect that they will withdraw the plan and there won't be a hearing. That's what happened in the Immers case, also before the judge when the votes were no. If the votes are yes, or it's a question, maybe it's close because the judge has some discretion, then we might still have a hearing because there are legal issues that could prevent the plan from going forward. So that's I'm just seeing a lot of questions. So I just wanted to throw those out there. Back to you, John.
A lot more to come on that. Don't be watching, the ticker tape because number one, you can't see it. And number two, there's obviously everybody's got their own strategy for, when they're going to release their master ballots back to Omni. So
But
when
John,
it's over,
I
we'll
would
know.
like to say, it's not just we that are bound by this confidentiality. The Boy Scouts are prohibited from talking about results. The coalition is prohibited from talking about results. Anyone who has access to these confidential voting records are under strict court order not to say anything. Now, I can't say everyone has honored that, but not everyone has.
Yeah.
But
I mean, if
that
you get
is
a
the
phone
rule.
call,
Right. So I just want survivors to know that it's not us being handcuffed and keeping information from you. No one is supposed to be talking about it because voting occurs over, obviously, it's been almost 8 weeks by the time we hit the end of December. And you're not supposed to put your thumb on the scale by announcing how the early polling is coming in. So if anyone's doing that, they're violating a court order and they're acting inappropriately.
Yep. And you should tell somebody if somebody calls you and tries to influence you with some numbers. So moving to our next topic, many of you might not realize that, one of the authors of a lot of our non-monetary demands, particularly around youth scouting and youth protection, is our very own Doug Kennedy. So Doug actually has a lot of pen to paper on this topic, and so I thought he would discuss some of the principles tonight that we've drafted that we would like to see implemented. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Doug Kennedy. Doug?
Thanks, John. I appreciate it. But I really can't take credit for any portion of this. This has really been a process that has involved the members of the TCC and their feedback, as well as a lot of input from survivors, question and answer, email that we've received. And I think it's important for people to really understand where we're coming from on youth protection. It's interesting. We've heard from survivors and they really fall into 3 different groups. One group says, I want the Boy Scouts abolished immediately. Another group says, I want the Boy Scouts to continue without a doubt. And then the third group says, that's not my concern. That's the Boy Scouts' concern, what happens in the future. And the TCC respects those feelings. And we understand why people might have those 3 feelings. But what every single group has said to us, loud and clear, is that as a result of this bankruptcy, there needs to be some assurance that abuse is going to be eliminated and the public is going to understand whether or not that mission has been accomplished. So the TCC doesn't see the bankruptcy as kind of this sort of line in the sand, and then, everybody just sort of washes their hands and goes on down the road and things continue the way they were, or maybe they improve, or who knows. So what we've been working on, and we're in conversation about this, but our basic principles are that we want an independent body within the Boy Scouts to be working with them on an ongoing basis, to be looking at their youth protection policies. And these are going to change over time. I mean, as technology changes, there's going to need to be new policies. As the scouting program changes, there's going to need to be new policies. And if the Boy Scouts are going to continue, they need to be flexible as time goes on. The other thing is, we believe that there needs to be an independent auditor that's on a regular basis going to look and be able to validate what these claims are, so that the Boy Scouts are not in the secrecy business. You know, we have IV files that still haven't seen the light of day, and that's being addressed. And we need this kind of transparency with the public. And the last portion of this really is for moving forward a way for the public to know whether or not its children are safe, and giving the opportunity to the Boy Scouts to be able to demonstrate their performance in youth protection. So that's kind of the 10,000-foot view of this. It's an ongoing process, but what we really want to do is assure survivors that we understand that the financial part of this is a major part of this, but we want to assure survivors that youth protection and the safety of children is of paramount importance to the TCC as well. And there needs to obviously be a major changes and improvements. And John, let me just say two other things. I've been reading the question and answers, and thank you to all of you that ask us these questions. They really help to inform us. The TCC is laser focused also on the validity of all votes. And we want to make sure that votes are recorded correctly, that your vote counts, and that is a major concern to ours. And I think everybody's mentioned this, so I'm going to mention it too. I don't want to see the headline after this town hall be TCC cancels town hall meetings, you know, like there's some issue or something. Not at all, gang. I got to tell you, the amount of work that the professionals are doing has ramped up in the last 2 or 3 weeks to this fever pitch. And the next 6 weeks is going to be absolutely insane for our professionals as well. Right now, I've been involved in political campaigns. You get to a point where it's just people have to vote now. People have to vote. Unless there are major changes, we've put the information out there. It's available on the recordings. We're going to continue to update the website if anything changes. And if there are anything significant changes, we'll be back in the town halls right away. But right now, we kind of know what's coming, and it's going to get crazy again. And we just want to be able to give people a bit of a break and focus on voting, but emails will still be answered. So I just want to assure everybody of that. We're just trying to be humane about this whole thing.
Yeah, keep them coming to TCC questions at pszjlaw.com. And, you know, Doug, on a personal note on the youth protection, you know, and we know there's all kinds of attorneys, coalition, BSA, and otherwise listening. It doesn't really make sense to me why youth protection and the oversight that might go with it isn't a core strategy for increasing membership for the BSA. I mean, you would just think that if you really want to move the needle, you have to assure the public that the BSA is a safe place to be. And I think there's a lot of skepticism on that right now. So, you know, we just encourage you guys to kind of be creative. We know we can get to an answer that keeps young people safe, so that we're not doing this in 40 years again.
John, I'd like to add something to this.
Sure, absolutely.
Because I've been working with Doug and the committee members to try to put proposals in a format, not substance, because while I do have experience with other like committees, I'm not an expert in, I'm not trained as a sociologist, as a therapist, or as a public health person. I consider child sexual abuse to be a public health issue. I believe that while survivors have a lot of insights into what youth protection can be, they're a piece of the puzzle in terms of the input. We have to talk to professionals who know how programs get instituted, how programs not just are articulated, but actually effectuated, how they actually happen on the ground. But if through the Q&A or the emails, people have concrete ideas on how to make scouting safer, we'd like to hear them. We are in ongoing discussions with all of the parties because all of the parties want to make it better. And so I know that asking a survivor how do you fix this, brings to that survivor what happened to me. And if they had only changed this, it wouldn't have happened to me. And maybe that would be a good idea. The what if they had done this would be a good idea. So we welcome the input from you, because you are a piece of the puzzle of how to eliminate, if we could, but certainly minimize the risk of this happening to your children, to your grandchildren, and the children of your friends as well. So please, we want to hear from you as part of the overall solution on this.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. One of the themes I see, several people have asked about the past Q&A. We'll take that under advisement and figure out if we haven't put those out on the tccbsa.com website, we'll get that done. With that, folks, I think we're just about done here. Anybody on the panel have any other thoughts or comments or information for our
John, I just want to say that, if there's significant changes, we'll be back. And also we're going to continue to update the website. So I don't want anybody to think that we're, taking weeks off. Good God, a day doesn't go by when we're not dealing with this. And trust us, we'll be back the first second it really becomes.
Somebody asked me what I'm going to do when it's over, and I sort of had that dumb deer in the headlights look, like I hadn't thought that far ahead. So,
hey, Doug and John, if I can just add something in that respect, because I think it's important, because I've been looking at some of the Q&A, and there are people who have felt very good about the town halls taking place. And so here's what I want to say about that. There may be, if there's anything that's really significant that goes on, because we don't want to just have them and kind of restate things that have been stated before. And I know people really do want to enjoy their holiday. I totally respect that. But if there are significant matters, if there's, for instance, a major settlement, so people hear about it, we may have to, on a short notice, set up another town hall. So I think there's this perception that we're kind of disappearing. And I will tell you, the people on this call and a whole host of others behind the scenes at our firm, for instance, and other firms, are working extremely hard to be prepared for the January 24th date. But this is a moving target, and things are still going on. And I think that if it's important, I don't care when it is, we're going to, and it may not be a lot of notice, we need to get on town hall. But if not, it's not that we don't want to do it. It's because we want it to be significant, particularly during the holidays. So I want to say that because I do know people have mentioned that they like the town halls, they'd like them to continue, but we're trying to be thoughtful about how we pursue that. So I don't know, John or Doug,
so keep your eye on the TCC BSA website. We try to keep that updated. If you have a question, TCC questions at PSZJ Law. I know these guys look at this. That's the first thing they look up when they wake up in the morning, and that's Steve and Malhar. You guys are just awesome the way you handle that. So if somebody's heard something or you want a clarification on something, we're here for you. But
John,
yes, Jim.
I was going to say, Deb alluded to this in the next few days. So give yourself maybe next Tuesday. We're going to start posting the dashboards for the local councils.
Yep.
And so in terms of, how often do I have to go look at the website? There's going to be updating. There will be updating going on, and keep an eye out for it. Give us a few days. They may not all hit at once. They may not all hit simultaneously, but with very few exceptions where we're still grappling with issues about the confidentiality of the underlying data that feeds the dashboards, we're going to have substantially all of them posted. So please keep an eye out for that.
Yeah,
and just as a reminder, the link is on the website is the local council analysis. So there's not too much hunting involved. That's where it'll be.
And
we'll get back to you guys on the Q&A and where we're going to hang those from previous town halls. So
all town halls are there. The videos are on the website. I think for the most part, they were transcribed for for those who have difficulty hearing. We talked about Q&A answers on those on those town halls. So you will, even if we can't replicate the Q&A because of technology issues, we do discuss the topics in the town halls that we've had today.
Okay, folks, on that note, I want to wish you a really happy holiday. Know, obviously, that we're fighting for you and your best interests, and we will continue to do so. Once again, if you are wanting information about what we're doing in future meetings, it's tccbsa.com. Questions to tccquestions with an S at pscjlaw.com. And if you have any questions about your ballot or you want another ballot, you have both the phone number and the email BSA ballots at omniagent without an E, agnt.com. So with that, folks, have a really great holiday. Thanks for your trust in us. We are working as hard as we can for you. Take care. Have a great evening.
Good night, folks.
Thanks, everyone.
Everybody.